Hey folks, in Star Citizen the letters CCU stand for Cross Chassis Upgrades, and they're basically a digital item that lets you change one vehicle in your hangar to another one. If you're interested in buying or upgrading to any ships beyond a starter ship, you could save a bunch of money if you learn about CCUs and CCU chains. So let's get into it. So like I said, a CCU lets you change one vehicle into another one. This means a CCU will always have a starting ship and an ending ship. For example, you could have a CCU that upgrades your Mustang Alpha into an Avenger Titan, and you can have CCUs with ground vehicles as well, so you could have a CCU that upgrades a ground vehicle like the Cyclone to an Avenger Titan. That said, I'll just call everything a ship to make things easier. The main limitation is that when you're purchasing a CCU, it needs to increase in value, so you can't downgrade one of your ships into a cheaper ship to get some money back. Every ship in Star Citizen that SIG sells has a dollar value, and when purchasing a CCU you'll pay the difference in value between the two ships. So since a Mustang Alpha is worth $30 and an Avenger Titan is worth $55, this CCU will cost $25. After completing the sale, you can go to your hangar on the Robert Space Industries website and you'll see any CCUs that you've bought there under the Upgrades dropdown, since CCU stands for Cross Chassis Upgrade. But at the moment, you still wouldn't have an Avenger Titan because you need to apply the CCU for it to take effect. If you expand the CCU by clicking on the arrow on the right, you'll see that you have a few options available to you. You can apply the upgrade, exchange the upgrade, or maybe even gift the upgrade. If you select Apply, the game will ask you to confirm which ship you want to apply it to, and you'll have to select one of the Mustang Alphas on your account. Most times you'll only have one, but some people have multiple copies of a ship. Once you apply the upgrade, you're done. You've bought and applied a CCU, and your Mustang Alpha is now turned into an Avenger Titan. But what about those other two options on the CCU, exchanging and gifting? You can exchange the CCU, or really any digital goods you've got in your hangar, to get store credit for the dollar value that you've put into them. This even applies to gifts that you receive in case you're a lucky person who's been gifted some ships, skins, or other digital items. This is what people are talking about when they say that they're melting something. All they're doing is exchanging something that they've purchased or received in the past for store credit. As for gifting, you can gift items like ships, skins, and CCUs to another RSI account, as long as you've bought the item by putting new money into your account, which means you didn't buy the item with any store credit. Now let's get into how we can use a CCU to save money. Every so often, SIG will run a sale where you can purchase ships at a slight discount in what they call a Warbond sale. Purchasing a ship as a Warbond requires that you pay for it with new money, not store credits, and in return for you putting more money into the game, they give you a discount. So instead of paying $55 for an Avenger Titan, SIG might let you buy it for $50 if you put new money into the game. The nice thing about this is you can often, but not always, create Warbond CCUs to limit the amount of new money you need to put into the game. So instead of having to put $50 new into the game, we could instead do a Warbond CCU from our Mustang Alpha that we had earlier. Since the Warbond price of the Avenger Titan in this imaginary scenario is $50, that means the price difference between the Mustang Alpha and the Warbond Avenger Titan is $20. So we can now purchase a Warbond CCU for $20 and still get our $5 discount while only putting $20 of new money into the game. We can take this a step further by making the CCU smaller, which lowers the amount of new money that we need to put into the game. We do that by looking for the cheapest CCU that we can purchase that lets us upgrade to the discounted $50 Warbond Avenger Titan. Since ship prices increase by $5, we're going to look for a $45 ship, and we end up going with the C8X Pisces Expedition. It doesn't matter whether we actually own the Pisces, just that it's available to purchase to complete our CCU chain. So we end up purchasing a Warbond CCU from the $45 Pisces to the $50 discounted Warbond Avenger Titan for $5 of new money. And that CCU saves us $5 since the actual value of an Avenger Titan is $55, not $50. Now that we have a Mustang Alpha and a CCU from a Pisces to an Avenger Titan, we need to fill the gap between the Mustang that we own and the Pisces at the start of the CCU by buying another CCU. The Mustang costs $30 and the C8X Pisces costs $45, so we pay the $15 difference. And since this is not a discounted Warbond, we don't have to spend new money if we've already got the store credits. If you're struggling to figure out how to buy CCUs for ships that you don't own, you can get to the CCU tool by going to the Robert Space Industries website, and then clicking on the Pledge Store link at the top, and then clicking on Upgrades to bring up the CCU tool. Now on the left side, change the radio button from My Ships to All Ships, and then you should see all the ships for the beginning of the CCU. If you want to know how I picked a Pisces as my $45 ship, I like to use the List of Pledge Vehicles page on the StarCitizen.tools website. I'll include the link in the description of the video. You can go to that page and then sort it by the ship's standalone cost to see all the ships in game sorted by their value. Since the Warbond Avenger Titan is discounted to $50 in our fictional example, I was looking for a $45 ship and saw a C8X Pisces Expedition, which is always available on the RSI store. That's a nice thing to look for as well, since it means that you can get that at any time and you don't need to wait for specific sales like you need to with time-limited ships. Most ships in the game go on sale during IAE in November, and most military ships go on sale during Invictus Launch Week, which happens typically in May. So those are the main times you can purchase the time-limited ships. And you'll want to stay away from making any ships that are quantity limited the start ship in your CCU unless you really know what you're doing, since those can be hard to get a hold of even for CCUing. Warbond CCUs are the basis of creating CCU chains, which is the process of stringing together as many small Warbond CCUs as possible on the way to the ship that you want to purchase, so that you can save as much money off the full price as possible. People often try to start their chain with a ship that has lifetime insurance, or LTI, since anything that you upgrade that ship to will also retain that LTI. These cheaper starting ships with LTI are often called LTI tokens, since people just get them for the token purpose of giving their CCU chains LTI. For example, we just recently had the Greycat STV offered as a relatively cheap vehicle with LTI, so this could have been a great LTI token for upcoming CCU chains during IAE. You don't need LTI in this game, and SIG has even stated that insurance isn't going to be a big thing, but people still like it, so might as well start your chain with it if you have an LTI token already. Now for a real example. Here's the actual CCU chain that I bought last IAE, which let me get the $250 Ares Ion for $170. I started with a Warbond Spartan ground transport as my LTI token, and then applied 4 Warbond CCUs and 3 credit CCUs to complete the chain. I saved $15 by buying a Warbond Spartan, paying $65 of new money to SIG to get the Spartan, which is worth $80. From the Spartan, I bought a CCU to a Cutlass Black for 20 store credits, and then bought a Warbond CCU from the Cutlass to the Argo Raft. The difference in value between the Cutlass Black and the Argo Raft is $25, but the Warbond CCU only cost me $10 of real money, so I got $15 of savings. Then I bought another Warbond CCU from the Argo Raft to the Razor. The difference in value between those ships is $20, but the Warbond CCU cost me $10 of real money, so I saved another $10. Then I bought another regular CCU with store credits from the Razor to the Prospector to fill in the chain between Warbond CCUs. The next Warbond CCU was from the Prospector to the Cartual, a difference in value of $15. But that CCU only cost me $5 of real money, so I saved another $10. Then I had another CCU from the Cartual to the Constellation Taurus for $20 just to fill in the gaps of the CCU chain, and I finally finished off my CCU chain with a $30 Warbond CCU from the Connie Taurus to the Ares Ion, where I saved another $30 since the difference in value between those ships is $60. So I saved a total of $80 on a $250 ship by chaining together multiple Warbond savings. I had an even longer CCU chain last IAE, which was 12 CCUs long that let me get the Scorpius for $145. And these chains were built using only the Warbond CCUs that were offered around last year's IAE. Some people hang on to Warbond CCUs for years and are able to save even more, especially on more expensive ships, where you can fit a lot more Warbond CCU savings in the chain. The kicker is that you never know what ships are going to be offered for Warbond CCUs, so if you're trying to get the max savings, you should just buy the smallest Warbond CCUs possible that are below the price of the ship that you're trying to purchase. but at some point you should just fill in the gaps so that you can actually get to fly the ship that you're purchasing. There are a few other things to know about applying and melting CCUs. The biggest thing to know is that if you melt a ship that has a bunch of applied CCUs, you'll only get credits for the actual amount that you spent, not the current value of the ship. So for example, if I was to melt my Ares Ion, I'd get $170 of credits for what I spent on it, not the $250 that the ship is worth. And you can't just melt individual CCUs once they're applied to a ship. You can only melt that entire chain after the CCUs are applied. Because of that, it can be better to keep upgrading existing CCU chains if there are more expensive ships that you're interested in, since if you melt it, you won't get the value of the Warbond CCU discounts back without using a buyback token for each one. And speaking of buyback tokens, these are tokens that let you purchase things that you've previously melted with credits, so it's sort of like an undo button. You'll typically get one buyback token per quarter, but the catch is that it takes a token to buy back each CCU in the chain, so once you melt a long CCU chain, you can more or less consider the Warbond savings gone. People who spent $1,000 in the game get concierge status and are rewarded 2 tokens per quarter, but I think that's occasionally been inconsistent. Also, some extremely rare or discounted ships cannot be bought back, so be cautious if you're melting something that's no longer offered for sale. Another thing to know is that CCUs can be a good way to lock in the price of a ship that hasn't released yet. Ships typically are cheapest when they're initially announced as a concept, and as they progress through being built, their price can keep rising, with another price increase usually coming when the ship is finally first flyable in-game. Ships that are already flyable in-game don't usually change in price though, so if you get a CCU from one of those ships to a newly announced ship, you can protect yourself against price increases. For example, I'm interested in the newly announced Crusader C1 Spirit, so I bought a $10 CCU from the Cutlass Black to the C1 Spirit. As the C1 progresses through development, its price will most likely increase, but I'll always be able to apply my CCU to a Cutlass Black, whose price will most likely be fixed at $100. I can also melt that CCU so it's in my buyback queue, and I can spend a single buyback token on it to get it back, and therefore protect myself against the price increase while I'm still able to access those credits on something else in the meantime. One other thing to keep in mind is that if a ship is attached to your game package, the value that you spend on the game package will be higher than just the value of the ship itself, since you're also covering the cost of the game. But if you go to upgrade that ship, you'll have to pay the difference based on the ship's value. So if you have a $45 game package with a Mustang Alpha, and you want to upgrade to an Avenger Titan, you don't get to pay the difference between the $55 Titan and the $45 game package. Rather, you have to pay the difference between the $55 Titan and the $30 value of the Mustang Alpha. And you always need to keep a game package attached to your account, so be careful when melting items and make sure that you rebuy another game package if you plan to melt your current one. Also, many folks might have LTI referral bonuses like a Dragonfly, Hoverquad, or other relatively cheap vehicle. You can upgrade these ships based on their value like other ships, but keep in mind that since these are referral rewards, they can't just be melted back into credits like you could with any other ship. So you can think of money spent on these upgrades as somewhat permanently spent, so only upgrade those to ships that you know you want to keep. I have heard that you can contact support and they might melt the referral reward for you, but then you only get your upgraded money back and you lose the referral reward itself. Some countries might need to pay additional taxes for CCUs when melting and rebuying. I'm based out of the United States, and we don't need to do that here, so I'd ask someone from your country for confirmation before embarking on that quest. The official RSI store isn't the only place you can buy ships and CCUs. There's also multiple external sites where people sell and exchange these digital goods, and they're collectively referred to as the gray market. These secondary marketplaces aren't condoned or supported by SIG, so you'll have to find your own way of being sure that you're not getting scammed if you go to these places. I personally don't use them, but I'll just say that if you want, you can find a few popular ones with a quick web search if you're interested. Lastly, there's a few tools that are available to folks who are interested in trying to create a CCU chain but don't want to go through the trouble of trying to track all the links in the chain manually like I did. A commonly used one is ccugame.app, and there's also a newer one called hanger.link. Personally, I like doing it manually, but many folks use these tools and it's not hard to get them working. Just know that they only have access to the Warbond CCUs that are currently available, so as sales are changing during large events like IAE, you might not get the most complete picture at any given day until the very end when most Warbonds are available again. Well, that's it for CCUs and CCU chains. I hope you found this useful and have liked this video. I'd also really appreciate if any of you who are signing up for the game would please use my referral code when signing up. You'll get some extra starting money in-game, and it'll help me work my way to getting some bonus ships so that I can more easily create content for this channel. The referral sign-up link will be in the description. Thanks again for watching this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Cheers!